So the claim is, and they say that the mean capacity, oops, it's popping up. The mean capacity, so we say, claim, just start writing. Mean is greater than 1.5 hours. When you use your calculator, this is the mean. This is the u sub 0. Some of you put it in your calculator backwards. But your claim is always about your population. Somebody makes a statement about a population that you disagree with. You use your sample to test it. So some of you used your calculator, but did it backwards. So because it has no equal sign, HA, HO, H sub O, the opposite. So what tail test do we have? A right tail test. Okay? Now, I needed to see the claim, and I needed to see where HO and HA were. That was that. And then your sketch. And now pull out your sample information. You have a sample of 50. Your mean is 1.55 hours. A previous population standard deviation was 0.32. And your level of significance, 0.10. So, use your z-score formula. So you're going to take your sample minus your population, 0.32 divided by the square root of 50, and you're going to come out with a z-score. It should be 1.10, right? 1.10. Okay, now you're going to find the area. And does that make sense that the z-score is over in this area where we're looking at? It does. Sometimes every once in a while it goes to a different area, but this makes sense. So we're going to go in your table. If you look this up in your table, you are going to get something with 0.8. Does anybody have it there? I'm sorry, 0.8?
643.
Thank you. 643. That's this whole area over here. We want this little area here. We want to subtract this. So we want this to come out to be what? 1357. Thank you. That makes more sense to me. This is your p-val. This is the value that is associated with this z-score. Okay, so now we tested p-val. P-val to level of significance. I have the chart right up there. P-val, level of significance. Fill it with zeros to match this. Okay, so now this is greater than. So your decision is fail to reject H sub 0. This is your decision. Then you go to your chart, and this is what you have to say. Your claim is your HA. You failed to reject HO. So if you fail to reject HO, you have to go along with HO. You can't go along with HA. So there is not enough evidence at a level of significance of 0.10 to support the claim that the mean reserve capacity of a certain battery is greater than 1.5 hours. That's what I expect to see in your interpretation. So does everybody see where, if you did go wrong, where you went wrong?
No. I don't see you want to write the actual list.
No, I want you to write this actual word in here. So this is what you present. So no one knows what this means until you tell them what it means. Because I don't know where this came from.
Yeah.
I couldn't figure it out. Because this one's fine. I don't know where this came from. Yeah. Okay, now, yesterday, let's switch this around now. Let's leave this up. Yesterday we talked about reject region. Let's see how different this is. So now, over here, in this shaded area, I'm going to say reject H0. And over here, I'm going to say fail to reject H0.
Wait, has to matter where your scale is?
It matters because it has to follow the HA. So now, instead of looking at the p-value, I'm going to find, for that p-value, what is my cutoff? What's my cutoff z-score? So I've got this piece right here. I know where this goes. This z-score has this area. So now I want to know what's the z-score that belongs to this tail, to this level of significance. So now, it's on the right-hand side. I still want to say inverse norms, 0.10, just make it be a positive, right? Or you could say inverse norm, 1 minus 0.10, and get the positive. Or better yet, you could go look at the chart. So if you do inverse norm, 0.10, what do you get? Try it for me. Inverse norm, 0.10. You get a negative number. Negative what? 1.28. So I look at my chart and I say, could it be negative 1.28? No, it must be positive 1.28. So now, watch, this is the only difference. Now I know the z-score associated with that level of significance. So now instead of comparing the areas, I'm comparing the z-scores. Same exact process. So I say, okay, this z-score that you found over here, this fits right to the left of this, barely to the left of this. That's where I would find 1.10, wouldn't I? And where do I fall? In my fail to reject HO. So on one side I use the areas, on the flip side of it I use the z-scores. They're both associated. This guy's associated with his area. This one's associated with that area. So instead of looking at areas, I'm looking at z-scores. Make sense? I personally, I like this one better for two reasons. It's more visual. You can see right away if you're in the fail to reject or you're in the reject. And second reason, I can't tell you how many kids put that backwards. And they test it backwards. You gotta follow it the same way. Unless you flip that sign in your head, you gotta follow it the same way. So I like this visual. You do have to label the shaded area reject H0. You do have to label this fail to reject H0. So in the past, some of my kids write FTR H0, fail to reject H0, and they write R H0. I'm absolutely okay with that. Why they didn't want to write it out was beyond me, but they kind of abbreviated. And so the first time I saw that abbreviation, I'm like, what is FTR? So then it took me a minute to catch on.
We still have to write
You still have to do everything else the same. And you can still use your calculator to do your z-score, but you just have to find the z-score of that level of significance versus finding the area of that z-score. So whichever way you decide, I'll have you sometimes do it this way, and I'll have you sometimes do it the other way. Just so that you see there's more than one way to do it. Okay, so we've got one more problem to go through today. And then you guys are going to do it. We're going to do an equal one. And then you guys are going to do this. So, what page is this?
example 10.
Yeah, page 372. Page 372, example 10. All right. So, a researcher claims, that's a nice easy way to start. A researcher claims that, there's a claim, the mean annual cost of raising a child age 2 and under by husband and wife's families is $13,960. So there's your claim. Claim, the mean is $13,960. Is that HO or HA? HO, because equal sign. So its complement would be not equal. What tail test do I have? Two tails. So now, when we make our two-tailed test, we're going to say two shadings. Because we're doing reject region, we're going to label this guy reject H0, and this guy reject H0, and in the middle, fail to reject H0. We need to find this cutoff and this cutoff. When we find one, it's just the opposite sign of the other. This is symmetric. They both have to be the same number. Okay, so we're good so far. We've got a level of significance of 0.10 to test this at. And again, it says, do we have enough evidence to reject the claim? The word reject is when our claim is HO. Is our claim HO? Yeah, so it kind of fits into play. So we pull out our sample information. And a random sample that consists of 500 children. They found the mean cost to be 13,725, and they found the population standard deviation to be 2345. They want to know, is there enough information to reject this claim? Okay, so Z-score. Let's find our Z cutoffs first. So I'm looking at 0.10. I have a two-tail test. How am I going to find the Z-score for this? Divide it by 2. Very good. I'm going to do inverse norm, 0.10 divided by 2, which is going to give me this guy right here, which is fun. So what do you get for your cutoff? Try it. Make sure you understand it. Julia, don't let me see that phone out again. Good. So we leave it here. I'm going to throw the 5 in there just because that's kind of the one we use with 5. So we've got our cutoffs now. So now when you do your Z-score formula, we're going to compare it to where it falls in that graph. So we take our sample minus your mean, your population mean, your standard deviation, divided by the square root of 500. That's a big one this time. Okay, so now your Z-score, figure out your Z-score. We get for a Z-score. Good. Negative 2.24. And we just have to see where this falls. So negative 2.24 falls to the left of this guy, somewhere in here. So what is our decision? Reject HO. It's kind of right there on our chart for us. Reject HO. So we go to our chart up there. Our claim is HO. Our decision is reject HO. We come, follow the words again. Claim HO, reject HO. Just fill in the pieces you need. You got to remember to use it this way. There is enough evidence at a level of significance of 0.10, taking it down, okay, to reject the claim that the annual cost of raising a child is $13,960. From. You can plug it in your calc, look up on your tape, not the Z-test. Well, the Z-test will give you everything. We'll give you the p-val. But how else can I do that without doing that? I have what I need. I have all my other information. What do I have to find?
Oh, you can divide Z-score.
What do I need to do with this? I need to find my p-val for this, so how do I find it? Without using my calculator to do the whole thing. Go in table 4. Table 4. You don't have to do the whole thing all over again. Table 4.
What do we multiply by 2?
Well, that's the opposite when we're figuring out what our things when we add the details together, but this is, we had to separate these to find this part. This is, when you do a p-val, that's when we're going to multiply. We're about to do this.
Alright.
So hang on to that thought for 1 second. So find me this. Find me this first in your table. Will's holding on to a spot for a minute. 1 minute.
Wait, just dig up my table forward here.
Oh, really nice.
Should be pretty small, right?
Alright,
0.01.
what's that one?
So now, Will, now what do we do with this? Multiply it by 2. Because we have 2 tails. And we really were doing the reject, but I just wanted to turn around and say, how different is this than your p-val? It's just the flip side of the coin. So 0.0250. We're still comparing this now, p-val, to level of significance. And you're still less than or equal to. So you're still going to get the same decision. You're still going to get the same interpretation. We just looked at the flip side. Now, what we're saying too, if you put this in your calculator and do a z-test, when it gives you the z-score, yes, it also gives you your p-val. I just didn't want you to have to redo what you just did. I just want you to take it from there and say, okay, you had a z-score, you have an area, I need the area to this guy. So I can compare my 2 areas. Yes.
So this is essentially just teaching us another way to do it. Like the first way is still valid.
Yes.